So this is your little girl. Oh, Claude spoke of you so often. And in such high terms. You were one of his dearest friends, I'm sure. He said you were so bright in school. So you're Rhoda.
Yes.
Well, Rhoda, you just come right over here and see me. You come give your Aunt Hortense a big kiss.
I wish she were mine. Every time I look at her, I wish I had just such a little girl.
This has been a terrible tragedy for Mrs. Dagley. She's lost her only child.
That know-it-all Monica Breedlove. I don't think nobody knows anything but her.
Did you have anything, I don't care how small it was, did you have anything to do with the way Claude got drowned?
What makes you ask that, Mother? Give me those shoes back.
Oh, no, I got them shoes hid where no bottom of me can find them.
Better give me those shoes. They're mine. Give them back to me.
I believe you did it. What do you give me if I give you a basket of kisses?
I'll give you a basket of hugs.
Hello, I'm film historian Tony Maeda.
And I'm Brad Shreve, who's just a guy who likes movies.
We discuss movies and television from Hollywood's golden age. We go behind the scenes and share our opinions, too.
And of course, being the average guy, my opinions are the ones that matter.
As does your self-delusion. Welcome to Going Hollywood.
Cheers, I'm all right.
Come on, Tony, it's time to record. Let's go.
Brad, have you got anything to drink in the house? Any little thing will do. I prefer bourbon, but any little thing will do.
Well, if I was a middle-aged mongoloid from Memphis, I never thought you would have showed up drunk.
I think I was playing more to the second row of the balcony than Eileen Heckart does. Any little thing will do. I prefer bourbon, but any little thing will do. Anyway. Oh, God, I love this movie. Brad, I can't believe... I can believe you wanted to do The Bad Seed, but I think it's so funny that we're talking about The Bad Seed to kick off our October-ish air quotes scary movie month.
Yes, and let you folks know we are doing a Halloween month, but not your traditional, you won't see old Universal monsters or Creature from the Black Lagoon or The Exorcist. We have a different month, and as you can see, The Bad Seed is one of them. We're going to launch off with that.
Yes, we're taking scary, sometimes literally and sometimes figuratively this month. So, the way I like it best.
And you know what I love about this movie is I was absolutely shocked that I remembered absolutely nothing. And I saw it not that long ago. So it was like watching it all over again and was just as deliciously terrible as it has been in the past. I loved every second of this bad film.
I am not surprised at all because you never remember you never remember anything we talk about. It's so funny. I'm like, I forgot this movie completely. I'm like, really? The whole thing? You did know that she was a psychopath, right?
I knew that she was a psychopath. I actually thought there were more people murdered. And beyond that, I didn't remember the ending.
Wow. We'll talk about that.
Yeah, I know. There's plenty to talk about regarding all that and the troubles they had trying to get the play on the screen. And it's really funny. I remember the dumbest things, and I remember stuff from like when I was knee high to a boll weevil. But I can't remember things that are more current. I don't know what it is.
All I can say is, oh, Rhoda. But before the iconic Miss Morgenstern, there was another Rhoda who captured the public's imagination. And not a self-deprecating, humorous Jewish girl from New York. I'm speaking of the murderous 9-year-old psychopath named Rhoda Penmark from our movie of today, The Bad Seed, from Warner Brothers in 1956.
And one thing that really hit me when I was watching this movie, I'm like, I would think after this film that Rhoda would be a name that kind of is off limits.
Yeah, right.
Just like not many people name their kid Damien anymore. There are some, but so I kept thinking, why did they name her Rhoda? But anyway, I'm glad Rhoda
Valerie
wasn't.
Harper grabbed it and took it back, brought it back back from the brink.
I'm glad Rhoda never put Mary into a basement and lit her on fire. So,
oh my God, it's so horrible. No, but you know who that was? You realize who that was, right? Henry Jones.
Yes.
I mean, he was Phyllis's, on the TV show Phyllis, he played Phyllis's father-in-law, kind of. Lars's mother's second husband, Henry. Anyway, we're getting way into the weeds here.
You're right.
Way into the weeds. Yes, Henry Jones. Anyway, yes, The Bad Seed. I love the fact that you want to do this movie because I love this movie. It just boggles my mind. I just watch this movie and I shake my head and I just go, Mervyn LeRoy, what the hell were you thinking? It's such a mystery to me why he made this movie this way. It's just, his other films aren't like this. They're not. We're basically watching, when we watch The Bad Seed, we are literally watching a filmed play. Everything about this movie is the play, including the performances. As I said, Eileen Heckart, God knows, Nancy Kelly, playing to the back row of the balcony, even though they're in a movie. And I just don't know what he was thinking. It's like his other films that he makes, which are based on plays, like Gypsy, he did Gypsy, like No Time for Sergeants. They're not like this. But this is literally like you're sitting down in the theater and watching a play.
Yeah, I had to deep dive into some of this because it just didn't make sense to me because, Evelyn Varden was considered great in her acting. I'm like, oh my God, this woman's awful. The same thing with Henry Jones. And, then when I looked and found out that they were actually comic relief in the play, but they played it serious in the movie, I'm like, well, there's part of the problem.
Well, I mean, you always play comic relief seriously, but I think the problem is, Brad, I don't think they're giving bad performances. They're giving theater performances.
Yes.
They're giving theater performances in a movie, and it's very, very difficult. The subtlety is gone. Now, I don't think we're going to disagree too much about this. I think we both think it's a fun, campy movie.
Yes.
But it's almost like Mervyn LeRoy intended that. So I think to me, that's a big mystery because I don't think these are bad performances. I think they're theatrical performances in this movie. Eileen Heckart, I adore Eileen Heckart. God bless her. I love me, Eileen Heckart. She was a wonderful actress. And it's interesting because she's walking a fine line between comic and seriousness. Her comedy is rooted in reality. This is a woman whose son, her only child, just died, and she's making us laugh. But we're not laughing at her. We're kind of laughing with her. It's very strange. So I'm interested we'll talk about this, to get into this and talk about exactly what the fuck Mervyn LeRoy was doing when he directed this film.
And speaking of Eileen Heckart, I've got to talk about Frank Caddy for a minute, who, obviously from Green Acres, Petticoat Junction, and Beverly Hillbillies, had such a great role, and he was so wooden. I mean, they only gave him a few lines, and his role was wooden. It wasn't his fault, but I'm like, this guy's lucky he had a job after this. It was just,
Lord.
His whole job was just to stand there silently watching her and mumble a few lines. It just...
it's crazy. It's crazy. It's just such a strange, wonderful film. It's truly like you fell through the looking glass and you're just like, where the hell did I land?
Yes.
Nancy Kelly, who plays Christine Penmark. Let's tell them a little bit about what The Bad Seed is about, because maybe some people have no idea what it is we've been jabbering on about for the past 10 minutes. Do you want to tell them a little bit about what The Bad Seed is about?
Well, sure. I wish I looked up the IMDb explanation. I haven't been doing that lately, but I can tell pretty easily. Yeah. It is about a young lady who is sweet as sugar and loves to have a basket of kisses, and but there just doesn't seem something right about this young lady, and her mother is like questioning it, and in the end, she turns out to be a murderous little monster who kills a little boy for a medal that she thought she should win, and then kills a hired hand for
well, she's a psychopath. basically.
Yeah, she's a psychopath. She
It's the
feels
story of a psychopath.
and she feels absolutely nothing. Nothing.
That's a psychopath.
Yeah.
It's basically the story of a mother's realization that her daughter is a murderer, a relentlessly, unapologetically psychopathic murderer. And that is some pretty tough subject matter. And as you can imagine, should I go into the background about it already now, just to get us up to date about it, or what do you think?
Yes, let me just add that the reason
Okay.
she is called the bad seed is because the mother finds out that her mother, the grandmother, because the mother was adopted, and she learns in the process of this, was it 2-hour film?
Yeah,
I really expected it to be less than 90 minutes. I was surprised how long it was. She learns that her mother, basically the nasty little girl's grandmother, was also a serial killer. So that's why she is a bad seed. She inherited this. I guess it skips generations.
It's interesting because although somebody said, well, it doesn't skip a generation because of what happens in the end, but that's a different kind of killing. It is a long movie, and I have seen theatrical productions of The Bad Seed, but they've all been parodies. I don't know that this play can be presented on stage anymore straight. I think everybody's always going to laugh because of this movie and because of the connotations that come with it. But I don't believe Mervyn LeRoy cut a scene. I mean, it is a long movie because I think he filmed every damn scene that's in the play. And the play is based on a book. The book, 1954 book, a horror novel by William March called The Bad Seed. And it was nominated for a 1955 National Book Award for fiction. So I can imagine it's a pretty terrifying book. I might like to read it sometime. It seems kind of interesting. But that very same year, it was turned into a play. And the play opened in 1954, and it ran for 334 performances. And the adaptation was written by Maxwell Anderson, who is a very heavy writer. He sometimes writes verse. I mean, he wrote Elizabeth the Queen. I mean, he also wrote a play called What Price Glory. So he's a very serious, very accomplished writer. And the play, what's interesting about the play is that the play had basically the major characters in this movie were all in the play. We're talking about Nancy Kelly. We're talking about Patty McCormack. We are talking about Eileen Heckart, Henry Jones, Evelyn Varden. They all reprised their roles because the film was on the heels of the play so fast, and good for Patty McCormack, because if it had been a couple of years later, she would have been too old to play this part.
Mm-hmm.
So do we want to talk a little bit about, I want to talk about the production of the play and the problems it ran into with our friends at the Production Code Administration, because you can imagine. This is 1956, and this is a movie about a murderous child. So what do you think that meant?
And it's the production code that really is the catalyst for making this film as campy as it is.
Yeah.
Or much of it. Yeah. Especially the ending.
I think that was maybe something Mervyn LeRoy had in mind. I think he kind of, this is a theory, this is my theory, is that he made it this way to kind of remove the audience 1 degree from the story, to make it more palatable, if that makes sense, particularly 1956 audiences, and to get it past the production code. Because if you're saying this is a play, then you're already removing it 1 degree from reality. So that's my theory. I don't know if it's true, but that's what I'm saying. So after the success of the book, Jeffrey Sherlock, who was the head of the Production Code Administration at this time, sent a letter to all the studios, said, "You will not make this into a movie. There ain't no way this is going to happen. There's just no way." He wrote to all of them, told them this. And Mervyn LeRoy, who we talked about briefly way back last year, he was the producer of The Wizard of Oz. He was kind of the second coming at MGM after Thalberg died. They thought Mervyn LeRoy, because he had been a big, big success at Warner Brothers as a director. Anyway, he said he had a way to do this, and he was going to do it. So he presented his approach to the Production Code Administration, and they agreed. They said, all right, if you make this film this way, the way you're presenting it to us, you can do it. Now, I don't want to go into the way he presented it because I think we're going to talk about that in this podcast. But that's how the film was able. That's how they were able to film this basically unfilmable property, was to make these changes, which we're going to talk about, and also to put an adults-only warning on the film's advertisements. Don't tell people the shocking end of this story. So the film got approved, and it was made.
And what's funny is that, they were told, don't make this movie, yet Warner Brothers was in a bidding war for this film and paid, $300,000, which I couldn't figure out why this movie had a $1 million budget, because 90% of this film takes place in one set. It's just like a play. But then when I learned that $300,000 was just to get the rights to this film, it made a little more sense.
Yeah, it was a big hit. I mean, it was a talk of Broadway. Patsy Kelly. I call her Patsy Kelly. Nancy Kelly. Patsy Kelly's from Rosemary's Baby. Sorry. Classic Hollywood brain bump. Nancy Kelly won a Tony Award on Broadway. And so they brought back the entire cast. And like I said, thank God, Patty McCormack, it was really fast because she didn't grow too old for it. Although, kind of like Jan Hadslick in Annie Mae, I feel like she's brilliant. Don't get me wrong. I can't imagine anybody else but Patty McCormack in this, but I think she's just a little too old. I think it'd be so much more frightening if she was a little younger. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. That's supposition. And as Elaine Stritch said, that's supposition. Fuck it. So let's talk about...
Well, it's like in the movies when they show a newborn baby that looks like it's 2 years old. What are you going to do?
Yeah, exactly. And Patty McCormack, I mean... How can you top this performance? It's phenomenal. It's phenomenal. So, what are we going to talk about, Brad? We told the story about what happened. I would like to talk about your reaction to this, since you don't remember seeing it, and you said you laughed and you had a great old time. So this is a story about a child who's a murderer. Why do you think... What is it about it that makes it funny to you? Well, I think that's what we need to talk about with The Bad Seed. What is it that makes it funny?
Well, like so many films like this, such as Mommy Dearest and Valley of the Dolls, etc., it's so over the top. The lines, the presentation. I remember the story being silly. I didn't remember and you pointed out it wasn't the actor's fault. It was the script and the direction, but I didn't remember how absurd everybody was. It was like they were all playing it for laughs, but playing it seriously for laughs. Which we know is the best kind of humor.
It is, but here's the thing: those two movies you mentioned, Mommy Dearest and Valley of the Dolls, they were not intentionally funny. The filmmakers did not set out to say this is going to be funny. They were very serious when they made these films. It's just that for one reason or another, something went off the rails in these films, and we look at them funny. I don't think that's the way with The Bad Seed. There are very funny moments in this play. There are some very funny lines. Besides that, though, I really feel like that was Mervyn LeRoy's intent, to make this almost a funny horror film. This is the way I'm looking at it. I'm thinking, I can't think of any other way this is being presented this way.
And I think you're probably right. I like to believe that wasn't the case because it's more fun.
Yeah, of course.
This was a train wreck. But no, I think you're probably right. It makes more sense that was the case. He said, I'm just going to have fun with this.
Yeah, Tina, bring me the axe was not intended to be a funny line. Okay, it was intended to be a very serious, horrifying line. But why would I tell you and get killed? Or, well, ain't we swank? I think really, I think there's so much humor in this. It's one of the brilliant things that happen in this film, and it's one of the things that makes this film brilliant to me. And yes, it's that four-letter word that we always are throwing around all the time that nobody really knows what it is until you see it. I'm not saying it's not porn, it's camp. This film is CAMP with a capital C. And not only that, it's gay camp. The gays love, most gays of a certain age, I guess. I don't know about the young kids. Love this movie. I tell you, as I said, I've seen parodies of this. And Rhoda, as you can imagine, is always played by a big drag queen with the pigtails. I mean, and every line is milked for its utmost dramatic intent, even more than it is in this movie. If you can imagine, they're more over the top than Nancy Kelly in this movie.
Yeah, Patty McCormack, who played Rhoda, I believe she's in her 80s now. Mm-hmm. One thing I really regret, this was decades ago, they played this movie at the Castro Theater in San Francisco.
I know. I heard.
She was there. And I didn't make it. I lived about 80 miles outside of San Francisco at the time, and I was so upset. I so wanted to see it, and I couldn't make it. And I would have given anything to see what she had to say and watch that movie with that crowd of gays.
It's funny. Film. Patty McCormack, God bless her, still alive. She very much like Patty Duke really distanced herself. As Patty Duke distanced herself from Valley of the Dolls and then later embraced it at the Castro Theater, by the way, P.S., Patty McCormack, the same thing. She distanced herself from this for a very long time until she realized the perverse joy this film and her performance gave to people. And then she embraced it. God love her. And she embraces it to this day. It's what's so funny. If only Faye Dunaway could get that stick out of her butt and realize it with Mommy Dearest, she'd have a whole new career. She would just be that. But I think the reason that this movie is camp with a capital C and gay camp is because, and I heard Charles Bush say this, that she's just Rhoda, the character of Rhoda. She's just so hard. She's like a gangster in Pigtails. She's like Jimmy Cagney in Pigtails. I mean, she plays it that way. The thing she says when she's talking to LeRoy, "Give me back my shoes," and she has that finger pointed at him. It's like Jimmy Cagney. I mean, it's hysterical. You're like, this is a little gangster. If she could pull out a gun and shoot, she will. And that's why you always have the big drag queens playing Rhoda. Nancy Kelly's so theatrical, so stylized. She was a grande dame of theater, and you see in her acting, it's not naturalism, it's studied naturalism. It's someone saying, "Look how natural I am. Don't you believe how real I am?" I mean, she has some moments where there's this one moment where she realizes that Rhoda is doing this, and she takes her fist, I don't know if you remember this, and she starts beating her stomach and in horror, like she's beating her ovaries. Like, this came out of me. I mean, Lady Macbeth has nothing on Christine Penmark in this movie. So funny.
And something else that made me laugh a lot was Rhoda is so phony and so transparent in her phoniness. And it's like nobody notices. It's like Evelyn Varden, Monica Breedlove. Her character just thinks Rhoda is the most lovely, wonderful child. So intelligent and so, she goes on and on and on. I'm like, oh, come on, woman. You seem intelligent in every other way, or at least act like, just how stupid are you?
Nobody
gets that. Blind are you?
No, nobody gets that. And, you really hope that, at the end of the movie when Rhoda talks about the parakeets and how Monica promised her the parakeet, how long do they live? Oh, they don't live as long as people. And then she says that she's going to go sunbathing on the roof with Monica. You're like, uh-oh, good. That woman cannot fall off that roof fast.
I know. I wish the movie was 15 minutes longer. Just for that reason,
I did.
Have that happen, and then Rhoda run to the dock after that. So
in the plot, what happens is that Rhoda, they're having a school picnic, and Claude Daigle, one of Rhoda's school friends, air quotes, has won the penmanship medal, which Rhoda,
a very important character who we never see.
We never see. But Rhoda deserved that penmanship medal because she clearly has the best penmanship. But she didn't get it. And then, after the picnic, we hear on the radio, Claude ends up dead, floating in the lake. And that's when it all begins to unwind for poor Christine Penmark. And the fabulous Eileen Heckart plays Hortense Daigle, who is Claude's mother. And she has two. This is such a play. She has a scene in the first act and she has a scene in the second act. And in both scenes, she's drunk off her ass. And she comes in, she's distressed, she's distraught, she's lost her only child, and she's been drinking. I may be a little drunk, excuse me. But she wants to talk to Rhoda because she wants to know, where's that medal? And how did Claude get that peculiar crescent-shaped mark on his forehead? But she doesn't get to see Rhoda until the very end. And it's so funny because Eileen Heckart, she's, as I said, there are such moments of such comedy, but the comedy is rooted in this drama, in this tragedy of her son, because we realize this is a woman who's lost her son. And yet we laugh at her. And it's the most disconcerting kind of a thing when you realize what's really going on in the plot of this story and the fact that we're laughing at her. But that's part of the problem of this. I don't know if it's a problem, but that's part of the juice of this movie is the fact that we're laughing at these very interesting situations, which should be tragic, but for some reason we're laughing at because of how they're presented. Right?
Here's the other thing about Heckart that, like you, I think she's wonderful. I think she's one of the best character actresses that have been out there. She's always fun to watch. But like many actors, it is really hard to play drunk. And to me, she was awful at it, which made everything she did and say even more ridiculous.
Oh, well, it's hard. Yeah, she's a very... So I wonder, though, I was going to say she's a very stereotypical drunk, but maybe she set the pattern. She didn't, obviously. There had been a lot of drunks before that. An incredibly hard thing to do. I'm not going to be as harsh with you because she is giving a theater performance. She's giving a theater performance. Thank you, Mervyn LeRoy. She is giving a theater performance in a film. If she was directed differently and directed to be a real drunk, I have no doubt. This is a brilliant actress. She's an Oscar winner. She won an Oscar for Butterflies Are Free in 1972. There's something that's just inherently funny in Heckart. She brings it to every role, like we say all the time. Actors bring their own qualities to whatever role they play, whether they're playing a grieving mother or whether they're playing Mary Richards' Aunt Flo on the Mary Tyler Moore Show, which she did, and Lou Grant. Eileen Heckart brings that to the table. So I don't know. I feel like any other actress would have been so much worse because Heckart dips into the humor and she dips into the tragedy almost sometimes at the same time. And you're like, what? I just laughed. And now, I don't know. It's an incredible performance given the constriction that she had. I don't find anything interesting about Nancy Kelly's performance. I'm sorry, I don't. She's just over the top, period, in her husky voice, beating her ovaries, slapping her hand on the table. How about when she takes that shoe, when she finally discovers Rhoda's trying to burn the shoes. Give me my shoes! She burns the shoes and she smashes that shoe on the table until she's so over the top. It's just too much.
And that is what I found interesting about her, is that she just was so ridiculous that I enjoyed her on the screen, but yeah, she wasn't all that interesting otherwise.
Yeah.
I have to sidetrack us for just a second because this is a piece of trivia I love.
Okay.
Eileen Heckart, other than Ed Asner himself as Lou Grant, is the only Mary Tyler Moore character that made the transition from the Mary Tyler Moore Show to Lou Grant, playing Mary's aunt.
Isn't that funny? It's so funny. Based on Mary Tyler Moore's real aunt, by the way. I think we talked about that a bit during one of our Mary Tyler Moore episodes. We talked about that, yeah. No, she's brilliant. What did you think of the actor playing Colonel Kenneth Penmark, one William Hopper?
First of all, I got to ask, is he related to Dennis Hopper?
No, he's related to another Hopper, though.
Oh, Hedda Hopper?
He's Hedda Hopper's son, yeah.
Oh, my goodness, I didn't know that. Yes, I kind of was debating if he was Dennis, and I thought he has a touch of Dennis Hopper, but not a lot, so I was just tossing that out there. Never thought about Hedda Hopper. And he was okay. He just was kind of a wooden character. There wasn't much to his character, but he wasn't given much to do, you know?
No, I know, exactly. It's a pretty thankless role. And he was a handsome guy. He was a very handsome guy. He did a lot of TV. But, I mean, he's so deadpan. He's another one who's fooled by, what would you give me for a basket full of kisses? Well, I think I'd have to give you a basket full of hugs. And you're just like, oh, my God, can't you see this girl's a psychopath?
And I was disturbed when she hugged him and talked about how big and strong he was. And it's just like,
not even
that
get
gave me
into
the willies.
that. Let's not even get into that kind of thing. Oy vey. It's just so funny, So this film, some of the funnier things in this film, and as I said, I saw this. I've seen a couple productions of this film as a play, and a couple of the productions, like they did with Valley of the Dolls, they just basically read the script, the film script, and they're reading it straight. But because it's so ridiculous, it gets huge laughs. Also because we're thinking about the movie. And Patty McCormack said that Mervyn LeRoy told them he wanted their theatrical performances. It's not a question of him being a bad director. Clearly, I just mentioned some films he directed that were not bad films. He wanted this. That's why I'm saying, Mervyn LeRoy, what the hell were you thinking? He wanted this. He wanted them to take their stage performances and put them in front of a camera and actually build on them. And it's kind of interesting because, as I said, I think it might be a way that he thought he was going to get this past the production code and he did get it past the production code, get it more palatable to audiences if he put this, removed it once and made it so theatrical that we just didn't take it seriously, which unfortunately kind of damages the theme of the book and the theme of the play. But I also love the psychological discussions in this and Freud. And I'm like, you're sitting here talking about psychology and you have a psychopath little girl right down the hall playing whatever that damn song is she's always playing on the piano. And it totally goes over their head. But I love the whole discussions of Freud and psychology because, and you think about this was 56, 57, not long after the Kinsey report, in 48 and 53. So, and Freud was big. He was just really beginning to make a mark in America in the 50s. So the whole idea of this psychological discussion they're having and the whole idea of what a bad seed could be, because I don't know if you knew this, Brad, but in that era, we kind of think of nature versus nurture now. And we know, because there have been chromosomes discovered that show that some things are genetic. Hello, being gay, genetic. So it's like some things in life are genetic. It's not the atmosphere you're born in. But in this time, the idea of there being a bad seed, of a genetic thing being passed down through the blood or passed down through a family, was not accepted. It was not the way we think of it today, and they talk about this in the movie. That can't happen. That can't happen. It's nurture, not nature. And hello, that's been misproven.
Yeah, it tends to be true of personality and mental illness in general, that the understanding that so much of that is hereditary. I have bipolar disorder, and bipolar disorder is considered hereditary now, or expected to be, I guess we should say. And that's the norm now, but that was not acceptable at the time. You were a bad person. That's just plain and simple, and there's no other way around that. I hate to say this to those that love Psycho, because I absolutely love Psycho, but psychiatrists have a real issue with the movie Psycho, and the psychiatric community has real issues with this film as well. Not that the nature versus nurture debate isn't justified, but it is a little bit simplistic in this film, but it did give the public interest in the whole concept, which is good.
Yeah, well, it was probably one of the first, if not the first time this idea was presented. So we're looking at it, a scrim of 70 years. And it just looks, it looks silly 60 years ago too. I think it looks silly 50 years ago. I think in the 70s, people were like, what is this mess? Bad seed. But
it was also done better in Trading Places.
Yeah, well, exactly. So, but despite the fact that we're sitting here saying this, this film, I don't want to get into the stats yet because there's a lot more I want to say about the movie, but, this film did get 3 Academy Award nominations, including...
I still can't believe that.
Nancy Kelly got an Oscar nomination as Best Actress, which you're just like, what? And of course, I'm sorry, it got 4. It got Best Actress. It got 2 supporting, one for Heckart, I think well-deserved, and one for Patty McCormack, on the fence, and one for Best Cinematography, Harold Rawson. Beautiful cinematography by Harold Rawson. This play is beautifully shot. See, I called it a play because it's filmed like a play. All these big, everything is in long shot. I don't think there were any close-ups. I don't remember, maybe one or two. There's very few close-ups. All long shots, all long scenes, because it's filmed like a play. I'm going to beat that to death. And it also has a beautiful Alex North, a very sparse, but a beautiful Alex North score. Alex North also scored Streetcar Named Desire, Virginia Woolf, Cleopatra. So there were some definite... this film has some pedigree, even though it is we're sitting here laughing about it and making fun of it.
And, nothing was more, the whole film you could tell was a play, but nothing was clearer to me than Henry Jones's character, Leroy Jessup, the janitor.
Oh, tell us about Leroy. Who was Leroy?
Yeah. Leroy is he may be the most over-the-top character.
Yeah.
And I was happy when I read that he was comic relief in the play, because he was so ridiculous in this movie. Just the sneering, taunting Rhoda, you're bad seed, that kind of.
He's kind of like Ernest T. Bass in the Andy
Yes,
show.
yes,
the character
perfect.
is like an Ernest T. Bass, kind of like remedial, like a lot smarter than you think he is. Comes off as kind of a buffoon, but it's kind of like an Ernest T. Bass. But
Excellent comparison. But his murder, when we see Rhoda go downstairs with the matches, and we know that he's been sleeping on straw, so you pretty much know what's going to happen.
Excelsior. He's been sleeping on the Excelsior.
Yeah, Excelsior, yes. And I'd forgotten being called. I remember years ago it was called Excelsior, and I'd forgotten. And at first I was confused, and I'm like, I do remember that now. But they did show the guys trying to open the door to the cellar. But for the most part, like after you saw the guys banging on the cellar, all you saw then was Nancy Kelly looking out and just saying, you hear him screaming, and you just watch her face. And then she goes, he stopped moving. And it was so play-like because we didn't see him. Today that would have been a very grotesque film. It would have been very... It would hurt this film, or maybe it would have helped this film, depending on how you want to look at it. It was priceless to me because it was... Let's not show that. Let's just have her tell us what's happening. This man's burned to death and dying, and we're just watching her face as she's distraught. And
what's the play?
Evelyn Arden is just like, what is best will happen, or I don't know what her words were, but something of that nature.
It's the play. I think Patty McCormack said in the play, actually, Nancy Kelly's back was to the audience, but she's still emoting. Let's just say it right now. Nancy Kelly doesn't chew the scenery. She masticates it. She rolls it around in her mouth. She swallows it. She regurgitates it, and then she eats it again. This woman is unbelievable in this scene. And when that happens, when Leroy's been taunting, first of all, hello, stupid. If you think she's a murderer, why are you taunting her? He's been taunting Rhoda, and they have the funniest exchanges because she does not take his shit. There is no screen with Leroy. She is little James Cagney with Leroy. She will just let him have it. And he has been taunting her. And when he trips her up, he hits the nerve when he talks about her shoes because he says he has her shoes, and that sets her off. So bye-bye, Leroy. Yes, he's trapped in the basement, and she grabs some matches when she's out to get a popsicle, and she lights it on fire. And that's when it finally occurs to Christine Penmark, I got to do something about this kid. This kid keeps killing people. And then I love when she starts asking her about some people from the past, like that kindly old Mrs. Post who met a tragic end by slipping on ice.
That is one of the biggest laughs that I had because there was so much exposition. She described, as if the girl wasn't there when it happened. She described every detail of what happened to that woman and how she died so that we would understand, and it was ridiculous.
It's the play. It's giving us this exposition.
I'm like,
it's crazy.
Nobody talks that way.
I mean, she gives a long, long speech about it, and I'm not going to do the speech, but it's crazy, and it's because her name was Mrs. Post, Clara Post, she'd promised Rhoda her trinket when she died. So Rhoda's like, all right, I'll make that happen sooner. I want that trinket. And that's what it is. She didn't slip on the ice. Rhoda slipped on the ice and fell against Mrs. Post. Oh, so she met the same end as Claude Daigle when if Rhoda wants something, she's going to get it. And that's what is so hysterically funny about it. When we're talking about the gay thing here, I thought this was really interesting. I want to get your opinion on it. Something else that Charles Busch said about Rhoda and why this film is such a gay, iconic camp film is because, other than the fact, also because she's hard and she's like Jimmy Cagney in Pigtails, is that Rhoda is an outsider. Rhoda is the air quotes other, but Rhoda is not a victim. You don't mess with Rhoda Penmark. She don't take shit from anybody. And one of the reasons why gay men respond to Rhoda, to the character of Rhoda, is because of that. Because she's an outsider, but she's not a victim. Nobody's going to bully Rhoda Penmark because she'll smack you upside the head with her tap shoe. No, she doesn't take shit from anybody. And I kind of like that analogy. I thought that is interesting because we're always trying to figure out what it is about a certain performer, a certain film that gay people respond to. And I think that's kind of an interesting take. What do you think about that?
I never thought about it, but as you're talking about that, I'm also thinking about the fact that Rhoda lives a lie and she has to live a lie. And she learns to do it well.
And she fools everybody.
Yeah. So all part of that whole same thing.
Interesting.
You might be onto something there. I don't know. I'd have to give it thought, but you might be on the right path.
And I like that.
The other thing about the gay appeal is the women-centered drama. I mean, we've seen, of course, Golden Girls was not a drama, but whatever it is, gay men love when women are together.
Yeah, and there's no men getting in the way, except for a handsome man once in a while, like Ed Hopper's son. There he is. Okay, fine. He can be in.
I think that's because women, when they're together, and this is stereotype, I could be totally off here, they tend to talk very openly, which is what gay men do. And I remember watching this guy. He was more of an acquaintance than a friend, but he was talking to his friends, and he's like waving his arms. He's like, I don't understand how straight men can do it because everything's behind them, and they're like, nothing is wrong here. Everything's fine. We don't talk about what's going on. And maybe that's part of the appeal. I don't know. That's kind of a guess.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. It's up for debate. I don't know. I just find it really fascinating that gay men, including myself, really like this movie, find it fun, even though it is what it's about. And I'm looking at these things. I look at this now, watching it for this podcast and seeing it and seeing how it was adapted into this film, and the fact that so much of this stuff was intentional. Some of the, the fact that Mervyn LeRoy told them to do this. That wonderful scene where Rhoda leaves to go upstairs and she flips her pigtail back, and the way Patty McCormack scowls and the camera comes in on her face and she's scowling. It's like a freeze frame. It's so funny. So you're like, this has to be on purpose. This has to be on purpose. It's just no other explanation for it.
One last thing I want to say about the whole gay icon thing is, reminds me of being in a bar one night and they were playing Mommy Dearest. They weren't playing all of Mommy Dearest. All they were playing was on repeat.
The slapping?
Yes. The slapping over and over and over again. And everybody was laughing hysterically. It was, my stomach hurt. I was laughing so hard. And I thought, would this be as funny at a more traditional straight bar, for lack of a better word? I don't know if it would have been.
They never play it. Well, but here's the thing. So in that same scene, and I don't want to go off on a Mommy Dearest on a Mommy Dearest tangent, but in that same scene when Faye Dunaway attacks Diana Scarwood and they're wrestling on the floor, why do we see her underwear? That's what makes it camp. That's what makes it funny. She's being strangled by her mother, and we're laughing because we can see her little white it's just stupid. It's like, did the director not see that? Now, I think Frank Perry, I'm not going to go into Mommy Dearest. We'll do that some other time, maybe.
We'll do that another time.
We'll do that another time. But I honestly, like I'm saying, I think this was all intentional on Mervyn LeRoy's part. Patty McCormack said it. She said, he told us to do our stage performances and build on them. And that's what we got here, folks. That's what we got here. So the film, once Christine realizes that her daughter is a murderess, she figures, geez, I got to do something about this before she kills me. Before she's, it's just crazy. How does Christine decide she's going to take care of the situation with her psychopath daughter, Brad?
Well, I forget the neighbor's name again. What was it?
Who? Breedlove? Monica?
Yes, Miss Breedlove just so happens to have brought down 2 bottles of pills and makes sure that she states clearly the bottles are clearly marked.
Vitamins and sleeping pills. They're both clearly marked.
Vitamins, sleeping pills, and they're clearly marked. And so she tells the young lady, Rhoda, that she has some new vitamins. And for whatever reason, Rhoda is just excited that she has new vitamins.
Yeah.
And she gives Rhoda her vitamins, which we know was from the wrong, clearly marked bottle. And is going to let her drift off as she goes into the back room and shoots herself.
Yep. That's it.
And this is where the play and the movie divert. And this is where I think it's a positive and negative. It's a negative in the sense that I think Rhoda surviving would have been much creepier. It's the negative. The negative is that Rhoda surviving would have been much creepier. The positive is we get that absurd lightning ending.
Well, another reason why it's camp. Yes. So Christine decides she's got to kill her child, but she can't just kill her child, that she's going to kill herself. So she gives Rhoda the sleeping pills. Rhoda falls asleep. She carries her. I always thought it was funny. Why is she giving her the sleeping pills in the living room? Well, so she can pick up the body and carry it into the bedroom. Because we've seen Rhoda in bed before. It's, again, this is what Mervyn LeRoy did. For some reason, he had her give it to her in the living room on the sofa so she could pick her up and Nancy Kelly could dramatically carry her into the bedroom.
Well, it's just like the play, because obviously that play took place in that living room.
It did, but we've already seen Rhoda's bedroom, so that's what I'm saying. It doesn't make sense. Logically, why would you do that? Because she wants to be able to pick her up and carry her limp body into her bedroom and put her in bed, and then come out, and then she goes into her room, the door closes, and we hear a gunshot. Now, as Brad said, this is where the play and the movie diverge, because one of the things Mervyn LeRoy had to do in order to get this film made was agree to change the ending. In the play and the book, same thing up to this point, except, and we find this out later, the next scene is basically the scene that happens in the hospital in the movie, but it's in the house, is that the neighbors are talking about how they heard the gunshot and came running down, and they found Rhoda at the brink of death, and Christine dead. Gone. She shot herself in the head.
But the Hays Code, we can't allow the evildoers to get away.
Right. Well, I'm getting there. So
yes,
I
had to get my little thing in there.
Okay. So they were Rhoda is on the brink of death, but she makes it. So in a surprise ending, ta-da! Here's Rhoda. She comes out, and she's alive and well and ready to kill some more in the future. And that's where the play and the book ends. Christine dead, Rhoda alive. However, as Brad just said, one of the strictures of the production code, crime cannot go unpunished. So, in the movie, Rhoda does indeed survive. The neighbors get down there in time, and they're all in the hospital. And Monica goes, she says to Rhoda's father, Hopper, had Hopper's son, William Hopper, don't forget you have something very important to live for. And at that very moment, guess who's come skipping down the hallway? The bad seed herself. But this is what's different. Christine's not dead either. Even though she shot herself, we assume, point blank in the head, She has somehow managed to survive this. Didn't poor Gloria Beatty and They Shoot Horses, Don't They? Didn't survive this. But Nancy Kelly did. She's hanging on by a thread.
She was so nervous her hand was shaking. How's that sound?
She's hanging on by a thread. So they go home, and Rhoda's in bed with her, what looks like a baby Jane doll. I just got to say, let's make it really camp and have her holding a baby Jane doll. And that's when she talks about Aunt Monica and the lovebird. I think they're lovebirds or the parakeet. Mm-hmm. And how long does a bird live? Longer than a person. And that's where Rhoda gets the brilliant idea of who her next victim is going to be. And at that moment, what happens, Brad? He puts her to bed. He says, sleep tight. The father goes into his room and lies down on his bed. And then what happens?
Can't remember why Rhoda went to the dock.
Because Christine told her she took the pendant. She took Claude's pendant and threw it in the lake. So she gets out of bed. She's like, I can go get that pendant now because my mommy's in the hospital with a severe head injury and my dad's a dope. He won't know I left. So she puts on her little raincoat.
Convenient.
Her little rain boots, her little rain hat, and goes down to the dock looking for that medal.
It's during a storm, during a thunderstorm, and while Rhoda is at the end of this dock, God says, you know what, that poison didn't work, so I'm going to take care of this little bit.
Let me take care of this. God basically says, Christine, hold my beer. I'll take care of this. And bye-bye, Rhoda Penmark. Gone finally. Goodbye. Because crime has to be punished, according to the PCA. But Christine comes back. She's not dead. The father gets a phone call that and of course she's able to speak to him. And okay, this is a woman who took a gun and shot herself in the head. And she's got the standard bandage 101 from classic Hollywood. And Betty Davis talked about this. She said, whenever you had any kind of injury in a film, you always had the same bandage. You had one around your face and one under your chin. So it looked like you just had plastic surgery. So we're not really sure.
Even in the cartoons.
Yes. We're not really sure if Christine actually shot herself in the head or maybe she got a little nip tuck. But she confesses to Kenneth, to her husband, that she knows she did wrong and she'll have to face the consequences, but at least they'll be together. And that's the end of The Bad Seed, the film. It is, you have to see it to believe it. It's so great.
And you know what's really sad in all of this? Because we both would have loved to have seen the demise of Monica Breedlove.
Right.
The way the book and the play were written after her mother dies, but she does not, we know that Ms. Breedlove was next.
Her days are numbered, baby. Her days are numbered. Yeah, it's so funny. And William Hopper, I mean, he's so deadpan. He's so droll. It's just like, what would you give me for a basket full of kisses? It just makes you want to retch, but it's so great. So that's The Bad Seed, the film. So do you have stats on the movie, Brad?
I most certainly do, but we have missed something that must be talked about.
What? What did we miss?
The ending, the curtain call.
Oh my God! How the hell did I forget the curtain call?
A few seconds that add so much to this wonderful
Oh my
film.
God. I'm so embarrassed I forgot the curtain call. Yes. Wow. The curtain call. So, again, this is how Mervyn LeRoy got it past the production code. If I haven't stressed that enough, the curtain call is like, this is a play. What you've just seen didn't really happen. No children died. No creepy hired hands were burned alive. It's all pretend. And that's how he got it past the production code. And then I was thinking, Brad, it's a lot like Jesus Christ Superstar. Because that's what Jewison did with Jesus Christ Superstar. He brought these players on, they performed a play, and then they left. Same exact thing. Isn't that funny?
Well, the thing is, on Jesus Christ Superstar, you didn't see Ted Neely get on the bus. So I was really confused. I thought, is that man really dead? I'm so grateful that this film had it so I could understand it easily.
Oh, consequences. Well, that's the thing. That's the thing. So they all come out. Literally, the film is over, and you're like, okay, it's not. Oh, wait, it's not. What's this? I have never seen a curtain call in a film before.
I know.
And they each come out, and the announcer says who they are, and they take their little bow, and then they walk off, and then the next person comes in the doorway and takes a bow. It's the funniest thing. It really is putting across that this is a play, especially what happens at the very, very end.
Before we get to the very, very end, there's one thing I thought was odd. There's the same door, and they all walk to that door, they turn it, and they do their nod or whatever it is they do. Except, and I can't remember the guy's name, the one that played the hired hand, the janitor.
Henry Jones.
He comes out of a different door, or that door with it being shut, and he has this, I think, a bucket, and I'm blowing my memory here. But he comes out differently than everybody else.
It's for variety.
And then everybody else is back to the same exact door.
They wanted some variety.
It's like he's not good enough to come out that door. He was just the hired hand.
That's it, exactly. Well, then Patty McCormack comes out, does her bow, walks off, and then Nancy Kelly comes out, and I'm surprised she didn't do a grande dame curtsy. She does her bow, but she doesn't go away. She looks over on the sofa, and who does she see sitting on the sofa of the set, Brad?
The little girl.
Patty McCormack.
Yes.
And she goes over to her, and she puts her over her knee and starts spanking her.
Yes, she does. Well, I mean, come on. She murdered a couple of people. She has to be spanked.
It's just so funny. It's like he really is saying, okay, so everything you've seen is all pretend, folks. So don't get all upset. You know, it's exactly it. And I'm going to punish this girl. She's got to be spanked. And it's just so, you know, it's not really jarring because we've just seen, 2 hours of incredible overacting and theatrical presentations and all that stuff. It's just so funny that this is what got it past the production code, was putting this little...
It's still jarring. It is
jarring.
This is going to be very random, but again, this is the studio heads thinking the public is just a bunch of idiots. It makes me think of Mary Tyler Moore when they were originally going to have her be divorced. Mm-hmm. And this network said no because people will think she's divorced from Dick Van Dyke. They think the public are idiots. Now, Fred, many are, but...
Well, but this is how Mervyn LeRoy presented it to the Production Code Administration, and they said, yes, since you're presenting it to us this way, that we've just watched a pretend story, that somehow it would be okay for audiences to see it this way. It just negates everything we've just seen, tells us we were watching a play. So it's so silly, and the fact that she spanks her at the end, I guess they needed a humorous button because we've just seen all this carnage for the past 2 hours. It's so crazy.
I'm sure people in the theaters were in tears and agony thinking about that poor little girl. They killed her on that pier, and they were so relieved at the end.
They were so relieved at the end. And Patty McCormack does not look happy that she's being swatted by Nancy Kelly. Did you?
Well, it looks like a real swat.
It does. And I'm like, okay, here's some child abuse. Okay, so that's okay, Jeffrey Sherlock. That's okay, but this whole story before is not. So there's just the twisted minds of the Production Code Administration at that time. So anyway, well, I believe, no, I'm trying to think, is there anything else? No, that's is really the Warner Brothers emblem at the end. That's the end of The Bad Seed. Now, Brad, do you have stats on this movie?
Yes, I do.
Perfect.
The film was budgeted for $1 million, as I said, and when you consider $300,000 was just to buy the play, I get it. I show that it made $4.1 million. Now, the numbers I have are very sketchy because it kind of blurred the initial release and the rentals. I believe it made $4 million at the time. And with rentals, and basically today, it's turned up to $8 to $9 million. I don't know how accurate
that sounds about right. That sounds about right.
Okay,
that about right.
Good.
Yeah, it was a big hit. It was one of Warner Brothers' bigger hits for that year. And these actresses went on to some interesting work. This was actually Nancy Kelly's last film. Thank God.
Oh.
She had been an actress in the 30s and 40s, but this was her greatest success. After this, she went back. She did some TV. She did some theater. She was in Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. I think she replaced Uta Hagen briefly. She obviously played Martha because that's who Nancy Kelly's going to play. And, Patty McCormack said that later in their life, they talked about doing a production of Night Mother, which would have been. Have you ever seen Night Mother? Do you know the play Night Mother or the film Night Mother?
Doesn't ring a bell.
Night Mother is about a girl who kills herself and tells her mother before she does it. So it's a 2-person play film. The film is with Sissy Spacek and Anne Bancroft. And what's her name? Kathy Bates was in the play. She plays the daughter who kills herself, and the mother was played by Sylvia Sidney, who's trying to stop her through the entire play. Anyway, that didn't happen. But after this, Patty McCormack went on to play. She was the first Helen Keller in the first production of The Miracle Worker. The first production of The Miracle Worker was on TV. It wasn't a film. It wasn't the play. The TV version was first. And she played Helen Keller in The Miracle Worker. And she went on to do other TV, here and there. She did soaps. You see her pop up all the time. But she, as I said, she really tried to distance herself, no wonder, from playing Rhoda in The Bad Seed until she finally realized how much fun and, I don't really want to say joy, but how much delight this gave many people. And she embraced it. And she, she's still living today. She continues to embrace it, which I think is wonderful. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing.
I think it was just a couple of weeks ago I said the same thing about Adam West. After he played Batman, he was not happy. And then finally he just like, what the fuck? I'm going to embrace this.
Why not? You know what I mean? It gives people pleasure. Whether it be a perverse fun pleasure, so what? She has the right idea. Patty Duke had the right idea. God rest Patty Duke. These types of things can be a lot of fun, and God bless it. So as you can imagine, because this play was so controversial, and because of the changes, there have been remakes of this. Did you know that, Brad?
I did know that. I know Rob Lowe was involved in one of them.
I know. Isn't that crazy? Rob Lowe did a Lifetime. Of course it was Lifetime. Did a Lifetime version of this in which basically he's
Lifetime?
He's basically Christine Penmark. Yeah. It's a Lifetime version of it. He's Christine Penmark in the Rob Lowe version of it, which I think is so funny. So there's a gender switch. And at the ending of it, is the father and Rhoda. Her name's not Rhoda anymore in this because Rhoda's just a ridiculous name.
Yeah.
She's iconic as Rhoda, so I don't know why. But anyway, I think her name's Emma in the Rob Lowe version. They have a shootout.
What?
Yes. Because he poisons her hot chocolate and she switches them because she knows that, because you don't fool Emma/Rhoda. And when he wakes up, he wakes up after being drugged, and he grabs his gun, and he's standing there with the gun. So she doesn't shoot him. She calls 911, and whoever, the caretaker of the house or something, comes and sees him holding the gun on his daughter, and he shoots him. So there you go. That's that. But there was actually a 1985 TV movie. I saw this, I think probably before I saw the film version. It was with Blair Brown. And it returned to the original ending where Christine kills Rhoda and kills herself, and then Rhoda's alive at the end. So that's really interesting. But as you can imagine, there have been a lot of other productions of this, parodies of this. I've seen this so many times parodied in theater. There's a musical parody called Ruthless that has shout outs to The Bad Seed. And in Ruthless, the character's last name is Denmark, not Denmark.
I actually would love to see this movie done as a musical itself. No changes, just make it a musical. I think that would be delicious.
That would be delicious. Ruthless is pretty funny. I've never seen Ruthless. I've listened to the CD, but I've actually never seen a production of Ruthless. So yeah, well maybe, because this movie has legs. This movie goes on and on and on. It truly is one of the, I think one of the 4 or 5 greatest, campiest film, right up there with Valley of the Dolls and Mommy Dearest. You cannot have The Bad Seed up there. That's the way I feel about it.
And something you mentioned was that this was Nancy Kelly's last film. And I understand that, because once she did this, she's like, I can't top that.
I'm going to top that. And she was only 35. Doesn't she look a lot older than 35?
Oh, she does. That surprised me to hear that.
Yeah.
But, we always talk about how people back in the day looked older. I would have guessed mid to late 40s.
And she definitely aged during the run of this play and this movie. So, Brad, is there anything else you want to say about The Bad Seed or about the podcast or anything else?
as I always end, if you're new to the show, welcome. We're happy and thrilled to have you. Please click follow, or some apps still say subscribe, so that you'll know when a new episode comes out. And if you've been listening to us for a while, thank you, thank you, thank you. We love that you're there and come back every week. And if you have the time, and you do, right there in front of you, there's a little thing that says rate and review if you're playing your phone, which you probably are. Hit that and leave a review and let others know how much you enjoy the show.
Do it. You don't want us to send Rhoda Penmark after you, do you? Do it. Follow, subscribe. Well, Brad, I guess there's only one thing left to say. And I got a lot of social obligations to take care of. So I'm not going to say it. Let's not say goodbye. Let's just say au revoir.
No, let's say goodbye.
Well, ain't we swank? Goodbye, everybody.
That's all, folks.